Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the incredibly high-stakes, highly technical world of blood transfusions. We're taking a massive amount of clinical data and transforming it into a clear, structured visual guide that you can actually use right away.
So let's kick things off with a fundamental question. If a patient rolls into the ER and they're rapidly losing blood, why wouldn't we just hook them up to a bag of whole blood? I mean, it seems that common sense, right? They're losing whole blood, so just put it right back in. But in modern medicine, that is almost never what we do.
To answer why, we'll follow this roadmap. First, the blood toolkit. Second, modifying blood products. Third, the halo of complications. And finally, massive transfusion protocols.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the blood toolkit, breaking down the components of whole blood. You know, when you draw blood from a donor, you're actually pulling a highly complex mixture of cells, proteins, and fluid. But thanks to the fractionation process, we can spin that blood down and divide it into very specific clinical weapons to target exact deficiencies. So you get your packed red blood cells at the bottom and platelet-rich plasma at the top, which is then separated again into concentrated platelets and fresh frozen plasma. Suddenly, you don't just have one generic treatment. You literally have a highly specialized pharmacy in a single bag.
Now, the real key to using this toolkit effectively comes down to exact numerical thresholds. We don't just guess here. For instance, you give packed red blood cells specifically when hemoglobin drops below 7 grams per deciliter in an asymptomatic patient, and that's purely to increase oxygen delivery. If platelets fall below a certain line, say 10,000 for standard prophylaxis, or maybe 100,000 if they're heading into neurosurgery, you transfuse platelets to form that crucial plug. And if the patient's fibrinogen is critically low, like under 150, that's when you reach for cryoprecipitate.
A really crucial point here is distinguishing between your plasma products. Say a patient comes in with a brain bleed because they're on a blood thinner like warfarin. In that scenario, time is tissue. Now, if you use fresh frozen plasma, or FFP, sure, it contains all the broad clotting factors, but it's frozen. You literally have to sit around and wait for it to thaw. Instead, 4-factor PCC contains just the exact factors you need, factors 2, 7, 9, and 10, and requires absolutely zero thawing time. So for rapid anticoagulant reversal, PCC is your go-to, hands down.
Moving right along to Section 2, modifying blood products. This is all about upgrading the toolkit for high-risk patients. Because let's face it, sometimes that raw donor product is actually too dangerous for a highly vulnerable recipient. First up is irradiation. Basically, we hit the blood product with X-rays or gamma rays to zap the donor's T cells. This is an absolute necessity for severely immunocompromised patients, like bone marrow transplant recipients. If you skip irradiation, those donor T cells will look around the recipient's body, recognize it as foreign, and fatally attack their tissues. It's a terrifying condition called transfusion-associated graft versus host disease, and we definitely want to avoid it.
Next up on the modification list is leukoreduction, and this is exactly what it sounds like. Eliminating the donor's white blood cells, or leukocytes. We do this to prevent those really intense cytokine-driven fevers, clinically known as febrile non-hemolytic transfusion reactions. It's especially crucial for patients with a history of prior transfusions who might already be sensitized. It's also key to preventing the transmission of cytomegalovirus, or CMV, which actually hitches a ride inside those white blood cells.
Finally, we have washing. We physically wash the red cells to strip away rogue plasma proteins. This is a totally non-negotiable step to prevent life-threatening anaphylaxis, particularly in patients suffering from an IgA deficiency. Think about it. If an IgA-deficient patient receives unwashed blood that contains normal IgA proteins, their body mounts a massive explosive allergic response. Washing literally washes that risk right down the drain.
Which brings us to Section 3, the halo of complications, or what happens when transfusions go wrong.
Because even with incredibly precise blood typing and washing, a patient's body can still completely reject the toolkit. To keep track of this, we anchor these adverse reactions using the halo mnemonic combined with fever, mapping out the absolute highest yield complications you're going to face. Fever stands for those febrile reactions we just talked about. Then H is for hemolysis, A is for allergic reactions, L is for lung injury, better known as TRALI, and O is for overload, known as TACO. Let's break down the trickiest ones in that list.
So there's a vital contrast to understand in the H of our halo. Acute hemolysis is a rapid, deadly ABO mismatch. Imagine you give type A blood to a type B patient. Their antibodies immediately attack the donor cells right inside the blood vessels. Those cells basically explode, releasing hemoglobin that instantly clogs the kidneys, causing acute kidney injury and severe hypotension within hours. Delayed hemolysis, on the other hand, well, that's a slow reaction to minor antigens, like Duffy or Kell. In this case, the spleen quietly chews up these tagged red cells days or even weeks later, which usually just presents as mild jaundice. Two totally different timelines and vastly different severities.
Now let's compare the L and the O of our halo mnemonic. These are two incredibly confusing lung complications that look practically identical on a chest x-ray, but have completely opposite underlying causes. Trale is an immune injury where donor antibodies attack the patient's lungs, causing them to leak fluid. Taco, and no, sadly not the Tuesday kind, is simply cardiogenic volume overload. Basically, you pumped way too much fluid into the patient way too fast, and their heart backed up. So how do you tell them apart? Well, Taco will show an elevated BNP and S3 heart sound in distended neck veins. And most importantly, you fix Taco by clearing that fluid out with diuretics. If you make a mistake and give diuretics to a Trale patient, you'll actually make them much worse. Trale just needs heavy respiratory support until the lungs recover on their own.
All right, let's head into our final stretch. Section 4, Massive Transfusion Protocols, Saving the Hemorrhaging Patient.
When a patient is in full-blown hemorrhagic shock and the tank is rapidly emptying, that's when you activate a massive transfusion protocol. And the absolute most crucial point here is this exact ratio, 1 to 1 to 1. That's 1 unit of packed red blood cells to 1 unit of platelets to 1 unit of FFP. See, if you only pump packed red cells into a heavily bleeding patient, you're going to severely dilute the remaining platelets and clotting factors, which actually causes them to bleed out even faster from dilutional coagulopathy. By strictly using that 1 to 1 to 1 ratio, you are essentially reconstructing whole blood on the fly.
However, these massive protocols carry massive metabolic risks. The big one to watch out for is hypocalcemia. See, donor blood is stored with a preservative called citrate to stop it from clotting in the bag. But when you pump massive amounts of citrate into a patient, it binds up all of the patient's free calcium. And because calcium is absolutely required for the body's natural clotting cascade, this ironically worsens their inability to clot. You also really have to watch out for hyperkalemia from older red cells leaking potassium, along with hyperthermia and acidosis, both of which will just further destroy the body's ability to coagulate.
So we'll wrap up this explainer with a somewhat provocative thought. After breaking down everything from the raw components to immune modifications to these massive protocols, it becomes pretty clear mastering transfusions isn't just about replacing lost liquid. You aren't just a mechanic refilling a gas tank. It's about deeply understanding the tools required to stabilize, reconstruct, and completely re-engineer the human body's most complex, life-sustaining systems in real time. Thanks for diving into this complex topic with me, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.